Hey, it's Devin. Welcome back to my channel. If you're new to my channel, please subscribe and like for future updates. And if you're not new, welcome back. Today we are doing a video on my labor and delivery story. All of you that have been following my channel know that I had a little baby girl. We had her a week ago and her name is Isla. She was 8 pounds, 21 inches. 10 fingers, 10 toes, perfect little girl. She's actually over here in the swing, so if you hear any if you hear any noises, that's why. But everything went well. We did not have the VBAC that I wanted to. We ended up having another C-section, which was not necessarily my ideal and what I wanted, but my baby girl is healthy and perfect, so that's all that matters. So today we're going to talk about that. If I look tired, it's because I have a 1-week-old. It's definitely different than with my son, Cullen, because he was, you know, when you have one baby, that's your main focus, all-encompassing. But when you have a newborn and a 3-year-old, it's definitely, your attention is being grabbed. And he's been really great. My son, he's been really cute with her. He gives her kisses and rubs her on the head, and he's very sweet and gentle. He's definitely wanting a little bit more attention, which I understand because it's an adjustment, but he doesn't seem to be jealous of her. He just wants attention, but he loves her, so far so good. And she's doing great. Our last video I talked about natural forms of induction, so obviously that didn't work for me. But you know what, I still stand by those, and I think they work really great for other people. I think I'm one of those people that don't really dilate until I'm in active labor, and that's what my doctor said. Some people just don't dilate until they're in labor, and I think that's me. So the last video I was talking about, I believe I was 40 weeks, and I had gone to the doctor and I was not dilated. So I was going to go for a follow-up that Friday to see if I was progressing. And if I wasn't progressing, we were going to set a C-section date. So I went in that Friday and I was still not dilated, which I wasn't surprised about, to be honest. And we set the date for the following week. So we were giving me another, I think, 6 days until I was getting the C-section. So my doctor thought that would be good. It would give me some time to at least go into labor naturally. It gave me another 6 days to hopefully have the VBAC that I still wanted. So that whole week I was still trying for the natural induction remedies. I was doing the primrose oil and the tea and the walking and the squatting, everything. And I also was hoping for a membrane sweep. I probably normally wouldn't have wanted that, but because I really wanted to try for natural labor, I was willing to try something to get it going. But you can't do that unless you're dilated at all. So when I had gone back, I still wasn't dilated, so they were unable to do that. And then my C-section was scheduled for that Thursday, and that Tuesday night into Wednesday morning, I started in labor. And I didn't realize it at first. I kept waking up during the night really uncomfortable. I was getting a little crampy, but I thought it was just the way I was sleeping, so I kept falling back asleep in between. But that morning it started coming closer and closer together and a little bit more uncomfortable. So I was like, is this contractions? Like, is this labor? Because my son, I didn't go into labor naturally, I was induced. So I wasn't sure if it was Braxton Hicks or what it was. So I started timing them, and they were about 9 minutes apart, and they lasted 9 minutes apart for like an hour. So I had messaged my husband, who had gone to work, and told him, like, it's regular and I think this might be something. So he's like, okay, keep me informed, like, if this is really something, I'll come home. So my mom was here with me, so that was good. And I kept timing them, and I got a little bit closer together. When I got about 6 minutes apart, we called the doctor, and she told me to come in. So we went to the office, and I still wasn't dilated. And they monitored the baby on the screen just to make sure the baby was okay. The baby was okay. I wasn't dilated. She told me to go home. She said if anything changes or they get stronger or closer together, then to call her again. So I waited all day. They never progressed closer. They kept staying around 5 to 6 minutes apart. But towards the end of the day, they started getting a little bit more uncomfortable. So I called, and the doctor's office, of course, was closed. So she asked me to come to the hospital at, I think it was around 5:30. So my husband was home. We packed the car with everything that we needed just in case we weren't coming home. And we went to the hospital. And we were monitoring the baby, and the baby was healthy and good. Heart rate was good. They saw my contractions on the screen. They were real contractions. They weren't Braxton Hicks. But I still wasn't dilated. So after that whole night and that whole day, I still wasn't dilated at all. So she said I could go home and labor at home, but that made me very nervous because I'm half an hour from the hospital and it was a VBAC. And my labor with my son was extremely difficult and hard, and I wanted to have the option of possibly getting a pain reducer if I could, because my son, I didn't really do that until really far into labor, and I was so uncomfortable and it was really difficult. So I wanted to be at the hospital just in case it got to that point. So I was talking to the doctor, and she kind of agreed, it being a VBAC, it was more of a special case, and because I was nervous about going home, she had me stay. So we were going to stay in triage, actually, because she said it was really busy at the hospital, so there wasn't any rooms available for me, so we were going to stay in triage. So they got me a normal bed, and my poor husband was sitting on the chair and was planning on sleeping on that chair that night. My son was with my in-laws, so he was safely tucked away and doing well, and occupied, so I didn't have to worry about that. So we were just laboring. She kind of said, like, let's see how it goes, let's see how the night goes, the next couple hours we'll check you again. My contractions were getting a little bit closer together, still not like very on point, like the time wise, but closer. I was at like 4 minutes, and they were getting stronger. I was walking up and down the hallways. That helped. Walking with my son, I wasn't able to do that because I was induced, so I was basically laboring in bed with my son. So it was really nice to kind of walk the hallways up and down, kind of get into different positions. That helped. She came in again at around 2 a.m. and checked me again, and I still wasn't dilated. And at that point, I just like started crying. I'm like, I am in such pain, and I'm going through this for hours and hours, and I'm not progressing at all. I was like, I want you to be honest with me. Do you think that I'm going to progress, or is this something that I'm going to do all night only to get a C-section at noon tomorrow? And she's like, it's tough to say. She's like, I can't say that. She's like, you're not dilating, but that doesn't mean that you won't. So she's like, you have two options. You can either stick it out and see how it goes, and see if you can dilate in the morning and see what we can do, or we can try to move up the C-section to tonight. So she's like, but I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to do that because it is so busy. I don't even know if it's going to be a possibility. So me and my husband talked it over, and I was like, well, why don't we just have her even see if it's possible to move it up, and in the meantime just try to stick this out and see how far we can go. So we talked to her, we agreed, and I labored for some more time all through the actually not some more time, all through the night I labored, and she came in at one point and said that I still, again checking me, not dilated hours later. So by then I was like, let's just do the C-section. Like I can't do this till noon tomorrow, knowing that I'm going to be in labor all this time for nothing. Like I don't think it's progressing, and I think emotionally I was just so drained at that point, because you keep getting your hopes up, like, oh, I'm doing all this work, I'm going through all this pain, something must be happening, and nothing was happening. So she came in after talking to the other doctors, and she said that I was not going to be able to get a C-section that night or early that morning because they were so busy. But the doctors agreed that it would be good for me to follow through with the C-section because of my circumstances. So they didn't want me to get an epidural. And not that I had asked for an epidural yet at that point, but I was kind of asking about it just out of curiosity because of how uncomfortable and tired I was at that point. And she said if we did, I'm sorry, baby was crying. So as I was saying, they wanted to do a different kind of spinal drug for the C-section if we had to do the C-section. So epidural was out, but I needed something. I felt like I was just so tired from laboring the night, the day, and now halfway through another night, and I was just like, if I'm at all going to dilate and get to any point this morning so that I could possibly still do a VBAC, I need to get some rest. So we tried Ambien. I was trying to do like the lightest thing at first, and it didn't make me tired at all, did nothing. And then a little while later they tried a morphine, but they gave me a tiny amount. I just asked for a little bit, just to take a little bit of the edge off of it, because I'm not a huge fan of drugs. but it did help a little bit. I still felt the contractions super strong, but I was able to, like, you know, doze off like in between the contractions a little bit, so I got a little bit of rest, so that was good. And then at about 6 o'clock in the morning, they came back in and checked me, and I was, I think, 1 centimeter at that point, and I just started crying. I'm just like, I can't do this anymore. Like, are you telling me that I have to wait till noon to do a C-section? I was like, I've been laboring for 20 something hours and I am now 1 centimeter. I'm like, how long can I go on like this? I think at that point I was just mentally done. And the pain had been getting worse and worse and stronger over the night. So she left to check with the doctors and talk to them, and it turned out that the 8 o'clock C-section was not going to happen. So I was able to take the 8 o'clock spot. And I know I was upset about it because my dream was really to have a natural labor, and then now kind of out of it, I wish I just stuck with it, you know. But when you're that exhausted and in that much pain, I think you kind of just, I was just done. And honestly, the way it was going, I think when I came to noon that day, I probably still wouldn't have moved much. So I think knowing that makes me feel a little bit better about it. But I was still bummed, especially knowing this is probably my last pregnancy. Not necessarily for sure, but probably. And next time around, after you had 2 C-sections, I don't think you're allowed to try for VBAC. I think it's C-section, that's what it is. So it's kind of a bummer, and I was upset about it. But at the end of the day, you know, my baby's perfectly healthy, and that's all that matters. And after the struggle that we went through to get pregnant this time and the 2 losses that we went through, I'm just happy that I have a healthy baby girl at the end of the day. So I don't want to just think about all the time that I didn't get the birth that I wanted. But so we went in for the C-section, and I ended up getting, last time it was an epidural because it was a emergency C-section, and I had just gotten the epidural like after 14 hours when I got the C-section. So this time I got a different drug, and you feel it. It's weird, like you feel everything they're doing. It doesn't hurt, but you feel like everything that they're doing. I did the last time, but this time was like more intensely feeling it. It was very strange. I don't even know how to explain it, but everyone that's had a C-section understands what I'm talking about. But when they took the baby out, it's funny because me and my husband were on one side of the curtain, so you can't see what's going on, but they kept talking like, oh wow, look at all of her red hair, she's got a lot of red hair. And I knew it was a possibility that the baby was going to have red hair because my husband's father has red hair, and I have 2 uncles that have red hair. We have Irish in our blood, so I thought like it's possible, but I was kind of shocked when they said that. But then when they brought her to me, it's not really red. It's almost the same color as my son's. When they were talking about it, I'm picturing like flaming orange, but it's like a light brown, like sandy auburny color, and my son's color was also the same, and it fell out and came back blonde. So who knows, maybe she'll turn out a redhead, but I don't really know yet because my son's did fall out and change, so we'll see. But I had a little bit of complications afterwards. I ended up, anybody that's had a C-section, I don't know if they experienced the same, but I got air bubbles kind of caught near my collarbone, which is really painful. They say when they open you up, you can get gas, like air bubbles stuck in your body, which does clear out, but every time I would breathe in, it would hurt. So that was one thing. And then when they gave me the spinal, they did something, and they said, I don't know how to explain it, but I was leaking a little bit of spinal fluid, so I had terrible, terrible headaches for the first few days and had to lie flat. I felt like that was the only thing that was helping. I didn't think they realized at first what it was. I kept complaining of a headache, but it wasn't because of the drugs, it was because of that. So towards the end, we started realizing that, because I'm like, when I lie down, I feel fine, but as soon as I get up, I have this headache. And of course, we're leaving the hospital, she's saying, you have to lie flat on your back when you get home for as many hours as possible. I'm like, I have a 3-year-old toddler and a newborn baby. My husband is home for 2 weeks, but I'm like, how am I going to do that? But thankfully, it probably wasn't as bad as a leak as it could be, because probably the first 4 or 5 days, including the time in the hospital, it was really painful. But by the time I got home, it was only like 2 days, and then I was up and about. Like today, I feel great. I feel fine. So thankfully, because she said that can last for weeks, and I could not handle that for weeks. So those were the laboring issues. My scar is small. They use the same scar as they did with my son, and it's healing really well. It's painful. I don't really like to take the medications as much as they say you can. I take them when I'm uncomfortable. I don't take them every 4 hours like they say. Plus Percocet is what they give you usually after a C-section. It makes you constipated. I know that might be TMI, but I'm like, you're already in pain from all this other stuff, and then you can't go to the bathroom and then you're in pain. So I just take it as needed, and it's been fine, and hopefully that'll heal fast. But that's my labor and delivery story, and my little baby girl's doing great. The next video will be my 1 week update about the baby and all the symptoms I've been having, and how she has been, how my son has been. He's been amazing. Just as a little quick thing, he's been so good. He hasn't been jealous of her at all. I mean, he's definitely craving a little bit of attention, which is normal, but he's so sweet with her and gives her kisses and pats her on the head. It's just really sweet, and it's really nice to see as a parent. So that's my update, and hopefully I'll be able to update again within the next week. If you guys have any things to say about your labor stories or things that you went through, if you went through something similar or had similar symptoms as I did, leave it in the comments below, and if not, subscribe. Bye. Thank you for watching.